I became vegetarian. I'm 47, and I became vegetarian when I was about 7. I went to a farm, and I was like, oh, the goats, the pigs. And then somehow I got into the room. It was a farm that they actually killed the animals there. And I got to the room where they actually killed the animals, and I still remember. It's amazing how you can remember things that really affect you. And I remember some guts or something from an animal, and I'm like, what is that? And the farmer said, okay, this is where we slaughter the animals. I was like, what slaughter? I didn't even know what slaughter was. I understood what it was, that they kill them. And I went home and we had dinner, and I was very upset that day. And I went home and we had dinner, and I said, well, Mom, what are you feeding me? But is this an animal? And she said, yes, but that's what they're here for. They're here for us to eat. And but this is the 70s, right? Because I was like, how could you do this to me? I love animals, and you feed them to me. And she was like, well, you need them. You'll die if you don't have them. And so I'm like, okay. So I did a little protest at 7 years old. My brothers got to go out and play, but I had to stay at the dinner table and cry. I wouldn't eat the animals. And then luckily my mom said, okay, let's go to a pediatrician. She's obviously not bending on this. So we went to a pediatrician, and luckily the pediatrician said she'll be just fine. You don't need to eat animals. You can eat lentils. And after the pediatrician gave the okay, my mom was like, okay, no problem. We went home and she made me, vegetable lasagna, and it was all fine, but that was before the internet, right? So I didn't know anyone that was vegan or vegetarian. I didn't even know there was a word vegan. I remember lots of times, every time I would come up in a conversation somewhere as I was growing up, people would mock me, well, do you wear leather? It was always trying to make me a hypocrite, right? And it's like, okay, so I just didn't like to say it. And sometimes I would go to dinner, it's like, oh, Lori's here. Now we got to figure out something vegetarian. So I was like, I'm sorry. My brother passed away in 2013, and I think when he was very, very close to me, I was my best friend, and I think when someone dies that's really close to you, you kind of, at least for me, it kind of woke me up and said, I got to do more with my life. I'm living my life with my family, my friends. I don't know, it just sparked something in me. Well, I was actually looking up vegetarian recipes, and I found all this stuff about veganism. This was 2013. And I'm like, well, why are people vegan? What's the difference? If you're vegetarian, you don't eat animals. And then I found out about the dairy industry. In retrospect, it's I should have known, if the milk is coming to me, what's the baby calf having? But again, we're conditioned to think it's okay, right? We see the milk, the cows and the commercials running in the fields. I had no idea. And the other thing is too, you don't imagine humans can be so cruel to take the babies away from their mommies, right? I didn't think that would happen. So as soon as I found that out, it was no more dairy. So I was everything, but I still ate eggs, because I thought, well, the chickens just have the eggs, right? So it's okay. And then I found out about the eggs and how they really only have 10, 15 eggs a year, and they're genetically modified, so they have 300 eggs a year. And as a woman, that's disgusting, because those poor chickens have to go through that process of having an egg every day, and their reproductive system they live a fraction of their life because of that pain that they have to go through. That was it. Then I became vegan. And then one day it was right after Anita's trial, that I saw her on the news. And before that, I was kind of on Facebook, trying to educate people on Facebook, but I was kind of behind the scenes. And then I saw Anita on the news and giving water to the pigs. And I'm like, okay, this is Burlington. This is where I live. So I came here. I was kind of terrified to see them. Of course, I bawled my eyes out when I witnessed for the first time. But ever since then, I have not turned back, because bearing witness gives you that strength, I guess. And that you just seeing them in that terrible state, you just will not stop fighting for them. I guess Anita is really my inspiration. Like so many other people, Anita kind of sparked that in me. And yeah, so now it's just a lifestyle. I always have a bag. I always have leaflets in my bag. I just, whenever someone sees my bracelet, they start asking a question. Right after the trial, I went to I had a doctor's appointment, and there was 3 receptionists there. And I don't know how we got on the topic, but we started talking about Anita. And I started going on. It was obvious that they wanted to know. One of the receptionists was vegetarian. And she goes, well, I'm vegetarian, I like cheese. And I said, well, I do too. And I gave my story, right? So it's not like I'm blaming you, because I didn't know all this time. And by the end of the conversation, the 3 receptionists were all crying. They were all in tears. These 20-year-old girls, right, all eat animals, all eat dairy. Good people, they just don't know. Like we didn't know at one point. Now, do they become vegan after that conversation? I don't know, but they were moved to tears. So it's promising, right? Like I think they will think twice about the choices and stuff like that. So that's why it's so important to talk to people, because like I said, those people are good people. They love their dogs, they love their cats. They just don't put the connection, with farm animals. I think all of us are born compassionate. We just got educating people that it's healthy not to eat animals. It's not the other way around. Then they don't have the reason or the excuse, right? And then once they don't have the reason or excuse, then it makes it easier to say, okay, now that you don't have that excuse, you can be totally healthy without eating animals. Now here's like some recipes, and people will think, oh, what do you eat? Like you can eat everything. And actually you eat more things, because when you eat animals, that's your focus of your plate. You have like, meat and potatoes and vegetables. When you become vegan, the meat part is not there anymore. So you more creative with your recipes, and you eat actually more fruits and vegetables because you find out even more ways that you can make meals and stuff like that. So I remember saying that when I was vegetarian, like, oh, I love cheese too much. But now that I know what the cruelty involved, like I said, I would eat dirt before I ate cheese. Like, I don't care how good it tastes. Nothing would make me eat it knowing, what the cost is.